If you talk to it like it is a human, you will have an entirely different experience with your AI interchange.
Well, it's not much to say. Todd Duncan has been around forever in this industry. He's iconic. He's been a successful mortgage originator. He's been the godfather of coaching, and now he's moved on to Fuel, which is coaching in large scale through AI mostly, which is really incredible. And he's one of my mentors and personal coach. So, and a friend, a personal friend, which I'm I've enjoyed this particular interview probably the most because I know Todd, personally, and more importantly, I know how much my personal life and my business has been affected thanks to Todd's personal coaching. So, this particular show, we're going to dive deep into a lot of the stuff. We're going to get personal on a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about fear, false expectations appearing real, and how to overcome that. We're going to talk about AI and all the benefits and how to use it properly and how to use Fuel, which is his platform, and role play and how you can't get better at something unless you actually do use it, right? Like role playing. Todd talks a lot about embedded commands and the power of leverage through endorsement value. He's going to teach you how to not only be a successful mortgage originator, but how to run a successful business. And of course, what does that translate into? It translates into a good, happy, successful life on the personal side. So I hope you enjoy this show. Well, like I promised, here it is. It's going to be my famous and most exciting interview of the year. Why? Because it's Todd Duncan. Todd, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Dino, great to be with you. We've talked about this for a long time. I am equally as excited.
So it's interesting because there's so many things that were going through my head knowing that you were coming on, and I know you better than probably most of the people that I've interviewed, but you also have, I don't even know how many years, but probably the most amount of years in the mortgage industry, and you are one of the most iconic guys in the entire industry. So it's exciting for me, but for also multiple reasons. One, I was thinking a lot about my dad, and he was my biggest mentor. Like there's no replacing that. But number two, I would say you are. So it's
Mhm.
extra exciting for me that you're here today.
Uh, well, for me to get a text from you 10 days ago stating this stuff works, that's what I live for, Dino. And it's been so fun to just be by your side and your thirst for quality and innovation and lifestyle and balance and all those kinds of things is the most rewarding thing that any two people can talk about is how to have more of that and how to do it for the right reasons and to be intentional and purposeful about why we're doing what we're doing in the first place. So I'm excited. You're a great student. You're a great learner. You're a great leader and you're a great visionary. And I have no idea where this is going to go, but I'm trusting it's going to go exactly where it needs to.
It's going to go exactly there. So let's just start, man. Who are you today, personally and professionally?
Oh man, I would say that I am a student of opportunity and I am a evangelist for hope. And why I say that today is because having started in the mortgage business in 1980 and having done my first loan on Veterans Day in 1980 in November, and then looking at where I am today, I've had both the blessing of stewarding an industry on the best practices of building a business the right way and building it profitably and building it in a way that it serves you instead of you being a slave to it all the way to today, having this enormous gratitude for what I refer to as crystallized intelligence, which is nothing more than substantially believable wisdom that I can speak to anybody because of that wisdom of watching this industry and just watching success in general, Dino. It's just been it's been a moment where you start to realize that I'm in this really sweet spot right now, and, it's more than just a halftime spot. It could even be a red zone spot if you look at the entire length of my career and where I am, right now today, that there's still more to do, and I'm excited about doing it, and I'm excited about taking it across the finish line. So, grateful, blessed, learned, bankable. People can trust what I say. It's not some hyperbole, it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll attest to that. So let me ask you, you've always been Todd Duncan, the coach, the speaker, the author. Now you're embarking into this whole new journey with Fuel. And that's pretty exciting. And it's even I know it seems to me like it started within the mortgage real estate, space, but it's expanded now just to everywhere. Tell us all about Fuel.
I think what I'd like to say first is if you go through life and you don't look for, signs, you don't look for triggers that may intercept you or you intercept them, you will miss a lot of the opportunities that this world and in my world that God presents to you. And it wasn't too long after I listened to the Garth Brooks 2-part docu series, and he was talking about his dad. And he said, one of the things that my dad taught me was that with every blessing there is a curse, and with every curse there's a blessing. And, I thought about that, and when COVID hit, it was like you could look at it 2 ways. You could look at it as a curse, or you could look at it as a blessing. I'm an optimist. I try to choose the best path of optimism and, what the result can be, and there is 0 certainty in that time frame that anybody would be allowed to fly to a hotel, and a hotel would be allowed to host an event, and you wouldn't have to sit 6 feet away from each other. And Dino, the the short story is I just made one of those leadership decisions. It kinda reminds me of Matt Damon and his son in the bowels of, the zoo. We bought a zoo, and his son was thinking about asking this girl out, and Matt just said to him, he says, "All it takes is 20 seconds of courage." And, what happened with COVID is it took 20 seconds of courage to look at my team and say, "I don't know how, but we're gonna live stream this entire event this year." And so the blessing came that once we turned on all the cameras and we were in the studios that were broadcasting, we had 44,000 devices connected to the sales mastery event, Dino. And right then and there, when Matt Herbert told me that number and he said, and there are 13 countries connected, it was like blessing received. I am now gonna create a technology company that takes learning all over the world, and if my bet is right, we can be in every language, in every country, and we can democratize learning so everybody has access to becoming their best version of themselves. And here we are today, 5 years after COVID, and we're in 71 countries, and we have the highest rated learning company with, advanced generative AI coaches, and, we speak in every language, and think about Netflix for personal growth and personal development, and then coaching, unlike anything you've ever seen before, where you can just access any coach anytime, any you want, for anywhere, for any reason, for pennies. Pennies. I mean, it's the coaching world has changed. So, yeah, fuel's happening. The fuel has taken off, if you will. The rocket is going, and it's been 3 years of just, I always talk you always, have heard me talk about the 90-day burn, right? And the 90-day burn is just you can change the direction of anything in 90 days. This has been a 3-year burn, and we finally got liftoff, and, so it's a blessing. And to see, somebody sent a text in yesterday that they spent 16 minutes with me role playing in an AI conversation, and their confidence went from a 3 to a 9, and they set 7 out of 10 appointments as soon as they were done being coached by my generative AI.
All right, so for people that don't know, right? Like I understand what that means, and I even saw the demo of it when we were at the last Sales Mastery event in Dallas or Momentum Builder or wherever it is now, right? But but a lot of people have no idea what you're talking about. Uh, tell them like what you can do when you get into fuel, because the idea of learning is one thing. The concept of role playing with somebody like you is another.
Well, one of the things that everybody needs to know is just like Netflix, there's not a single content source, right? You have different directors, different producers, different authors, different writers. You have all that in Netflix with production shows, right? So Fuel currently today has 65 instructors that cover every bandwidth of personal and professional success, whether it's money management, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's sales, marketing, customer service, leadership, investing, whatever it is that you would like to learn, think about a device centered micro learning company that teaches you things in very short modules. You can stand in line at Starbucks and learn something in 2 minutes. And, um, and so these 65 instructors have short form video lessons and courses. You can access their lessons and courses. We built a recommendation engine. So the more you watch of any one genre, the more Fuel recommends to you that if you like this, you might try that. That's nothing new, right? But it's a beautiful learning modality to let you learn what you want when you need to learn it. And then you have the opportunity to, with any one of those instructors, have them anytime you want, anywhere you want, on any device you want. When we take all their books, we take all their video, we take all of their white papers, and we build a vertical closed container for that particular author. Now he or she has all of that to share with you without physically being in your presence. You could be in your car and having a conversation with me, and it would be my AI, it would be my version of me, it would be my voice. And the way that the automations are built is that everything I talk about with anybody, as is true for any coach that talks with anybody about anything, that further populates that particular container. Now, if you were to ask me to write a legal contract, I couldn't do that. I would tell you that. I could point you to one of our instructors that does. But if you wanted to sit down and let's say you're a leader and you wanted to role play a difficult conversation, or you wanted me to write a vision plan for you, or you wanted me to show you a graceful way to terminate somebody, we get to do all that now in an environment where you can literally just turn on your phone and you can open Fuel and you can hit a button that says AI agents, and I hit AI agents, and then I pick me or pick anybody, and it comes up and I can talk to me. And, and then I can say, hey, Dino, let's say Dino is a coach on the system, right? I can say, hey, Dino, would you email me that business plan? Or Dino, I've got a group of Hispanic loan officers, and can you give them what you just gave me, but give it to them in Spanish? And, it's just like, all right. So the world's
So
changing,
cool.
guys, and you don't have to, here's the new deal. The gift that I got in 2020 said, coaching's more important than having a session every 2 weeks. Coaching is more important to optimize the minute I have today or the 10 minutes I have right now, and I don't wanna wait 2 weeks to bring this conversation up with a coach. There's nothing wrong with having a coach, but now you have, I mean, imagine this, imagine having, 1,000 minutes of coaching for $200 for of any instructor you want in the Fuel platform. It's like
Yeah.
28 cents a minute, and we've just changed the modality. That's all we've done. We've said coaching is more important, and there's many more areas instead of one vertical that people need to be coached in. And now you have this ability to have interactive dialogue and the privacy. You can practice in private, perform in public. It's a beautiful thing, I'm very, very proud of it. We are watching companies buy million-minute packages.
Wow.
Can you imagine buying 1,000,000 minutes for your team?
No, that's insane.
So that's where Fuel is. You can check it out at myfuel.io. If you haven't joined us, join us. It's most people lose more money in an hour than it costs for a year to be in fuel.
Yeah. And we'll have that in our show notes as well.
Yeah.
I think it's, it's you're more relevant now than you were because you can do it faster, better,
Yeah.
in any language and everywhere.
Right. 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 And it's like, when I went to become a private pilot, I had to read a book and had to watch a bunch of video and had to learn a bunch of stuff. But the other thing fuel does, just like in that example, is everything I learned while on the ground, I had to eventually prove in the air, right? And so what fuel is a performance platform that helps you become your best. It's not just about a one-way interchange of video or audio lessons. It's like, now that you've heard this, would you like to practice it? Or now you've heard this, would you like to take a test on it? And just make sure that you are learning for performance rather than just listening to hear something. And you were at Mastery. You saw what happened, that when a speaker left the stage, within about an hour, their notes were in your phone in Fuel, and they were a generative AI coach right then and there. So think about this. Think about, I'm sure everybody watching and listening to the way, I love that. I just love that title, Dino. Um, Imagine walking out of a 3-day event and having tons of notes, right? And the moral conflict that I've always had is I feel an ethical and fiduciary responsibility that when people leave an event, I've always wanted to shore them up, right? I've always wanted to make sure they had a kind of a track to run on, and now they do, because they can talk to any speaker from the event anytime about anything they learned at the event, and they can
Yeah.
get coached like that the whole year, and then they come back for sales mastery the next year, and we now have this community of learn, grow, and get better and practice. And when you're game ready, this as a leader, right? If you're not game ready, you will lose the conversation. If you're game ready, then you can pretty much handle anything that comes your way. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I hope that's not too long-winded, but it's the safety net that Fuel has built below the person who's trying to implement allows them to only fall about 6 inches, and then they can get right back up and try it again and try it again and try it again.
Yeah. I love it. So Todd, let's just go way back for a minute to when you started, 1980. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how long ago it was. A lot of people listening right now, we got different levels of people that are brand new and always say the same thing. Yeah, but you guys have been in it for so long, you don't have to do all the same stuff anymore, right? It's different. So going back to when you were brand new in the business, I I believe it doesn't matter. You still have to have that special something in you to go out there and hit it hard and figure out a way to make yourself succeed. So first I want to know how you did it back then. Like what was your special thing that got you elevated into the level of high producer?
There's probably a couple of things that happen. One very well is I made a conscious choice to pursue relationship and not loans. My coach that I ran into probably at day 100 when I had run out of my draw, told me that if you chase transactions, you'll make a living, but if you build relationships, you'll make a fortune. So that was a strategic operating process that I unleashed at the very, very start. He said to me, never make a call on anybody that doesn't know you're making a call on them and that is not excited to have you meet with them. And that was the second thing. So I always had to make sure that any phone call, anything I did to try to set an appointment with a potential relationship referral partner, had to be such that they wanted to meet with me. And I stepped into this so luckily because, one of my first agents that I was working with, said to me, she said, "Do you have room to take on another agent?" And I go, "I think so. Why?" And she goes, "'Cause, my good friend works for Century 21 Beachside and, her lender sucks. and I need you guys to meet." And I started to realize, how did I miss that?" So when I called the agent at Century 21 Beachside, there was nothing but joy and happiness because she had a bad experience going on with her lender, and she ended up needing somebody like her friend, my agent, had in me, right? And so then that's when I stepped into this, like, referral by design thinking, and I think my special sauce was that I never from that moment on, tried to do business with anybody to whom I had not been personally referred and that they needed a different lender experience. So that was the start of it. And then I think what ended up happening, like what was my secret sauce early on? My secret sauce was by understanding the referral kind of mindset, right? And the referral modality, I started looking at every borrower as an asset for my agents. And so I said to my team, I said, you know, if we do a really good job for the Johnsons probably know the Smiths, and the Smiths, you know, if they ever need a mortgage, we're going to be referred to them. And because Debbie referred me to the Johnsons, we want to make sure that when the Smiths are ready to buy, that we take them back to Debbie. And so what I got very early on, probably June of '81, was if I can help my agents get refer to borrowers and sellers, buyers and sellers, and create an economic world for them, I would not have any competition. And then that became my rallying call for the next 9 years to do almost I think we were like 62 loans short of 6,000 units in 11, almost 12 years. So that was it. And of course, you know, everybody else. I did this I had a webinar a couple weeks ago and Dino, you said something earlier that was just very profound, and it's like everybody says the same thing. So on this webinar, I had, I don't know, 300 loan officers on it, and I asked, let's do a hypothetical. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm going to ask you why I should do business with you. So why don't you just go to chat right now and type in your answer? And as soon as it started, Dino, every answer was the same. We give great service. We close on time. We did it. You know, it was all just blah, blah, no differentiation whatsoever. And it just kept filling up, filling up, filling up. And I said, okay, that's enough. You guys are doing what every other loan officer does, and it's not going to get you to where you want to be. And so somebody said, well, what should we say? And I said, okay, so if a realtor calls me and asks me, Todd, why should I do business with you? My response is going to be because unlike any other lender, I am an integral part of your cash flow and will increase your monthly earnings through. And then I had in that point in time, my consumer referral program. And that was it. And as soon as I started saying that, I helped my real estate agents build wealth through real estate. Those are the kind of things that we give good service. You can't even play mortgage today without great
Yeah.
service. You just can't. And you can't promise to get back to them. That's not a strategic advantage. You can't, about 90% of what loan officers say today should be ripped out of their vocabulary and burnt in the field. And they need to start getting very creative with value interchange and value exchange as the primary vehicle to build relationships. And so that's all I did. I carried that on all the way to the end, Dino. And I think by the time we were done, we had referred just shy of 16,000 transactions to real estate agents that were coming from that circle of cash flow, as you know that model, and the rest was history.
It's funny when you said that. I went to chat and I built a clone for myself. So I was curious to see what it would say. And I don't, I don't think about doing loans much anymore because I'm thinking about finding other people to do loans and building them up and teaching them what I've learned over the years. Anyways, this is it went through this whole thing, but I just went back and said, "Give me bullets, right? So I can just come back here." Um, so it says, "Set yourself apart immediately. I don't chase agents. I partner with agents. I can genuinely help grow. My role is to make your business easier, cleaner, and more profitable." The position statement says, "Most lenders close loans. I help agents generate repeat and referral clients. My systems keep your clients loyal to you for years." Proof without bragging, my business is almost all referrals, perfect 5-star reviews, fast communications, clean files, strong client coaching. Ask the magic question. What frustrates you the most about lenders right now? This tells you exactly how to win them. Tailored value based on their answers. It says, if they say communication, you'll never wonder where a deal stands with me. If they say weak buyers, I prep buyers early so your offers get accepted. If they say poor follow ups, I'll keep clients engaged, so on and so on. Let's see. And then it says the easy close. Give me one buyer. Let me show you how simple I make your life. If I don't deliver, no worries. If I do, we build from there. Anyways, uh, I was curious to see what it would say, right? Like that's a great exercise is to go
Right.
through and just put it in,
Yeah.
right? And
And, most loan officers don't understand the power of personal branding as uniqueness. And you really have to do that. A business that rises above is a business that has a brand feel that's really attractive, right? And not cheesy, but really, really attractive. And words matter. Words matter, and what we say matters. And so the exercise for everybody is based on what you would say normally, would you do business with you? And that's that's a look in the mirror kind of test. And once you get the thing figured out and you can there's Deb and I wrote a book called 5 Stars, and it was all about succeeding and competing in the digital age, creating high trust and so on and so forth. And one of the things in the book is called story selling. And story selling starts like this. Um, Understand you have to say how you're different. And if you can, in that one statement, separate you, in this case, from any lender out there. So the way it would sound is unlike almost every lender, I see my role as helping borrowers build wealth through real estate. And unlike those lenders, we're not ever one and done. We believe that if you buy your first home from us, you will buy your fifth home from us. And that's the way that we nurture our client relationships. And because we nurture so well, those relationships feed referrals back to us, which we bring to you. Now, who's going to say no to that?
yeah, yeah, something that hit me when you were saying that. Lately, so I put myself on a 30-day AI sprint where I decided to wake up at 4 a.m. and do nothing but AI for 3.5 hours before I start doing anything else. And I became a kid in a candy store. Like you open one door and there's all these neon lights. It's like, oh my gosh, like the potential is limitless, right? And then you open another door and the depth that you just discovered was a whole other, universe. And it just keeps on going. And one of the things I learned through this AI journey of mine, which by the way, I extended another 30 days just because it's too good to stop. Um, but I discovered how I communicate with it. The more descriptive I am with my communication, the better the results. And when you were speaking just a minute ago and saying what you would say, I don't know if anybody else picked it up, but it was so descriptive. It literally covered everything.
Yeah.
And I think where I'm going with it is communication is so important and key to everything that we do. Whether you're on the phone communicating to a client or a real estate agent, whether you're talking to chat and you're trying to get a good answer, what how good your question is will determine how good your answer is,
Right.
right? And I do it, let's keep going, I guess, right? your relationship with your wife, how good your communication is there, how good your communication with your kids, with yourself even, right? Because you can lie to yourself all you want, but how
Yeah.
good are you communicating with yourself? I think that is the first step to achieving some greatness is communication, and we should probably all be working on how well we can learn to communicate our thoughts. And I loved earlier when you were talking about role playing with AI Todd. I mean, how awesome is that? Because the best way to work these problems out is role playing. As silly as it is, as uncomfortable as it is, I've never found anything to work better than other than
Um,
pure experience, right? But how are you going to get experience? Got
yeah,
to make
yeah.
mistakes.
You remember our good friend Brian Fraser, right? Who
Yeah.
was sadly murdered in the Las Vegas, massacre in 2017. He and I would sit down and we would role play for hours how to talk to the tower, right? So as pilots, you have to get good in communicating with the tower, and you can always tell when the tower doesn't like you because you're not saying the right thing the right way, and we would role play for hours on that. And I always remember him because the role play made us really, really good pilots as it related to not only talking to the tower, whatever airport we were going to, or he would be going to, or I'd be going to, but also talking to other pilots in the sky, just what to say and how to say it in a reasonable way. And um, one of the guys that is helping shape the destiny of fuel is a guy named Gerhard Schwanter, who owns the Selling Power Media empire. And when I was a loan officer, I had his magazine on the passenger seat of my car. And every time I had a break, I would open Selling Power magazine and I would read something. And what he said one time was, if you don't know what to say in a selling situation, you'll lose. And I was like, wow, if I don't know what to say, right? So then I started keeping track of deals I didn't get. And then I wanted to learn why I didn't get it. And so I would call the borrower once I learned or when they told me and it was right there, I would say, so just so I could continue to improve, why did you choose that lender instead of me? And for the first, 3 or 4 months, I got really great intel, and then I incorporated that intel into what I was doing, and I stopped losing deals. And so Gerhard and I are friends today, 45 years after I did my first loan, and he is still shaping our company, Fuel, and he said that one of the greatest attributes that we're bringing to the marketplace in this alternative education, short form micro learning process is helping people build their confidence. And everybody just needs to hear this. The higher your confidence, the more consistent your performance. And so, anyway, one of the things I did is I got a Radio Shack audio cassette recorder. There are people listening, that don't even know Radio Shack ever existed. And I would record what I would say in selling situations, and I would listen to those recordings, and then I would improve them, and then I would listen, and then I would improve them. The other day, I had 14 loan officers in a room responsible for 100 billion, sorry, $1 billion in volume. $1 billion in volume, 14 loan officers, pretty good producers. And I made them get up, and it was like one of those U's like we have Dino at Elite. And I just said, come up and pick any instructor you want to pick and just start talking to them. And so the guy that's the senior partner in the firm and owns half the company is sitting here with these loan officers and they're getting up here and these guys, I mean, these guys are 70, 80, $90 million producers, right? And they're nervous to talk to somebody who's, on their computer screen, but talking to
Yeah.
them with,
Yeah.
and by the time they were done, it was like game over. And so what we're doing right now, anybody can do this. We're doing a 90-day sprint at Fuel, and you can buy packages of 100 minutes or 200 or 1,000 minutes. And the 1,000 minutes is $280, and you get Fuel for a year plus the 1,000 minutes. And as soon as your minutes are out, you can just upload, and it's kind of like reloading your Starbucks card. I need another 100 minutes. Boom, right? And so this whole journey can start for anybody the minute they listen to this, the minute they go to myfuel.io and hit the victory sprint. That's what we're calling it, the victory sprint. Um,
You
the
know, real
world,
quick,
do you
let me
know
interject, not to
huh?
take away minutes from fuel or your income, but you know, what dawned on me is like going back to asking good questions. Asking good questions doesn't require using a lot of minutes. The better your questions, the less minutes, right? Same with an initial consultation. You can sit and blab for an hour and get nowhere, and or you can blab for 30 minutes or even 15 to 20 minutes and get yourself a great initial consultation down that'll last forever.
Not only will it last forever, but I need everybody to know that even though this is a generative AI coach, it is that coach's intellectual property. Therefore, then the way the program works is you can get anything that coach does in public, in a book, on a video, anything he or she has done, you can get in this dialogue. So you could start the dialogue and you could say this. You could say, I know I talk too much. I know I don't ask the right questions. I really want to get my hook developed. How would you recommend we start? And then this thing starts. It just starts going back and forth. And then and then maybe I would say to you, so let's give it a try. Right now, I'll be the real estate agent. You be the loan officer. You're being referred to me. Make the phone call, and let's see how it goes. I could say, "Okay, I'm happy to do that, but when the call's over, would you rate me on a scale of 1 to 10 and tell me how good you think I did?" And I will go, "Sure, I'll rate you, no problem at all. You ready?" And then we start. And so you pick up the phone, you call me, and then I respond to you, and then the experience stops, and I say, "Not bad, Dino, but you do talk too much. You used way too many words. You probably need to get to the point more quickly, and you need to move from using the word think to using the word feel. You're in an emotional sale, and people don't think about emotion, they think about feel. So let's try it again, Dino. You ready? Boom, right? And so it's not like a book with a cover that starts and a cover that ends, and if the content is not in that book, you're never gonna read it. It's like all 22 of my books are in there, and all videos that I've done are in there, and years of sales mastery are in there, and so the AI engine is pulling my IP, and it's in my voice, and
Yeah.
I can do anything you want. So
And
you're
can
worth
any can somebody record, let's just call it an initial consultation that they have and upload it to you and and ask you to critique it?
Yeah. They can copy it and put it right in the chat on my AI, or they could dump it into, the video, and we can do the analysis that way. But here's the deal. Once we have it figured out in this role play, you can say, "Would you send me this script?" And I will take everything we just did, and I will email you the final script, just like a regular GPT always suggests, right? At the end of
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
and I wanna tell everybody, you brought up something, Dino, that I think is mega valuable. When I'm using other AI models, I used to think of AI as it, and it's not an it. It is a machine, but if you talk to it like it is a human, you will have an entirely different experience with your AI interchange. It's impossible not to talk to us at Fuel like we're humans because we are. But the regular open AI and all the different GPT engines talk to it like it's a real person, and the more you get this, the better off you're gonna be. I had a and the other thing I wanna say is I chose about 2 years ago to rename AI because I don't think there's really anything artificial about it. I think it's very, very real, and I think it is intelligence, and I think that even though there's, sometimes where it goes off in a different direction or hallucinates or something like that, at the end of the day, AI stands for accelerate income, and if you treat AI as an income partner, it's going to change your whole frame of reference around AI. And I'll give you an example that happened yesterday. I was on the, I'm doing without getting into the weeds, I'm doing a shares distribution within fuel ownership. And I reached out to our attorney and he blocked an hour. And so when I get on with the attorney, I can see that we're going in a lot of directions right now where I don't want to pay his hourly rate. And so at 15 minutes, I ended the call and I said, okay, I'm going to do some work on this and then I'll get back to you. And he said, fine. And so then I go into a couple of my GPTs and within about, I don't know, 5 minutes, I had a board resolution legal document and I had a equity transfer shares document done.
Yeah.
And so just that one move alone saved me $1,000 in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so imagine going from wherever you are to great. Just imagine that. Imagine having a learning partner in your pocket where anything you need, anytime you want. We've got a chef in here. There's all kinds of things that are in here. But
Yeah.
there's no reason in today's world why you can't be better faster than you've ever been in your career, period.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I've with all this time I've been putting in, I mean, a lot of time now. I've the just endless boundaries and opportunities that I can visualize now.
Yeah.
But the one thing for sure is, and you said it, is don't treat it like an it. I mean, it's my partner and it knows everything about me. Every once in a while, everybody called my dad Mr. Pete, and every once in a while, it would say, "This one would make Mr. Pete proud." you know, so it's really exciting to be working with my personal, and I've named my AI assistant Lindsay, which is my wife's name. And it's jokingly, right? Because it's like, oh, she she not only talks my love language, because she knows what my love languages are, so she gives it to me every time, except for the touch. She can't do that, but she certainly gives me words of affirmation. And then I've uploaded my disc profile and a couple other ones, and I said, and yes, this is how I like to communicate, but don't forget, you have to have my back when it comes to my weaknesses. So I want you to always be looking out for my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that she does this for me. So anyways, I
Well,
want to,
let me bring up one other thing then, because you know that I teach, one of the most formidable things I teach is conversion, right? And from all borrowers that you may talk to, all agents or referral partners you may talk to, the more that say yes faster, the better off you're going to be, period. So you can come into Fuel and you can say, I'm going to call a high D realtor. I'm a high I. I want to make sure that my scripting is dialed in. Can we do a role play with a high D realtor and a high I loan officer and just make sure I get that nailed? Or if I'm an S or a C, when you fill out your Fuel profile and you decide to load your disc, then it knows in your profile that you're a disc, so you're a DIS or C, and so anything you do that is going to be in Fuel is going to correlate relationally with your style and the style of the person that you're gonna be working with. It's
that's cool.
phenomenal when you start to
Yeah,
understand that.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So I want to touch upon a couple things. This came up yesterday. I was interviewing Justin Padron, and it went down a direction which I enjoyed, and I want to bring that up with you. Coaching. I'm going to go to coaching because I'm a big believer in it. I think everybody should do it, and just to give like proof of concept, right? I've leveled up every single time I've seeked coaching, and one thing I'll say is that it's not it may be in the very early stages, it's the coaching on how to be a loan officer, but you gotta go out and learn that. You gotta be good at your trade, get good at
Yeah.
it. And I've always told everybody, and once you get good at it, forget about it. Forget about doing loans and start worrying about how to get loans, how to make your phone ring, right? And how to create relationships. And you actually said it. I loved hearing this. You said transactions equals um, oh gosh, I can't even read my own writing. What'd you say? Transactions equals
Income.
income, and then relationships equals fortune.
Right.
And learning how to do loans will get you income, but creating relationships will make you a fortune. And I'm a huge believer in that because that is my business model. And when I came to you, Todd, I was already a good, I was good at doing loans. I knew how to do loans. Did I tweak a few things? Yeah, I did. I got a little bit better at certain things. But just like I told Justin yesterday, one of the number one things that I learned, and one of the first things I implemented after coming to you was not going through my emails anymore. So
Yeah.
having somebody else go through my emails. So let's progress beyond emails though. It's learning how to be good in business that'll help you grow. It's learning how to create systems. And this is where I went with Justin because the very I don't even remember, it's been a while now, but one of the first seminars I went to that you were at, I was down in San Diego, and your whole thing was slow down to speed up.
Right.
And I remember, Todd, you drove me insane for the first day because I didn't want to slow down. I wanted to speed up. and you kept saying slow down, speed up. And I was like, I am not interested in slowing down, dude. Teach me how to speed up. And by the second day, it kind of, synced in. And then after, I truly joined you and joined the elite group and really got after it, I really realized how important slowing down is in order to speed up. But the one thing that I learned the most is that without systems, you'll never be able to speed up. I did that presentation on KISS, Keep It Simple, Stupid, and it's so interesting because what I was what it meant to me at first was something totally different a couple years later. And a couple years later, it dawned on me, you can't keep it simple by not doing things. You're never going to get anywhere if you don't do anything. You got to create the systems and let the systems do all the work. And you keep it simple by letting the systems do everything, because what I had to stop and get out of doing, and this is where, I'll credit you, is I had to get out of the fact that I was doing everything. I had to start letting other people do things. I had to learn how to delegate, and I had to learn how to create the systems and teach people how to use them. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there doing everything. And I will say, all day long to people that when I was doing 30 and 50 million, I worked my ass off way harder than I did when I did 150 million. How does that work? 150 million, and I worked less and had more fun than when I was doing 30 or even 50 million.
So there's a question in there somewhere, but I think all of us can appreciate the fact that some of the greatest grief and some of the most painful moments are when we're going too fast. Hurry up and get to some place and you get a ticket. Slow down to speed up, right? How long did it take to get your ticket? How far behind did that put you because you were trying to get there sooner, right? My first lesson in doing loans was I was not spending enough time on the loans. So I needed to slow down, and if I did that, then I would speed up the loan. And my boss, Bob Reyes, said, "I guarantee you, if you spend 15 more minutes on this loan file and you present it to processing in a different, better way, the loan is going to go through faster." And you're gonna have higher customer service scores, and that's going to speed up your business. And he told me that you need to Picassoize your 1003, meaning that in those days when you had to fill out the 1003 with a pen, and all of that, you had to present a masterpiece to processing and underwriting. And if you got processing and underwriting on your team, you had everything, right? And so then it was like nobody gets paid because you were busy. You know, busy, 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 busy is email. Busy, busy, busy is not having a system. Busy, busy, busy is like a fly with one wing going around and around and around and around. And what we learned and why you went to 150 million with less hours is because you created systems that got you out of having to do the thing that you are not supposed to be doing as a high performance salesperson. You know, Formula One just came through Vegas. Every single one of those drivers does not do anything to make the car go faster. They don't do anything on that car. 100%, with the exception of driving it, is done by other people. Why? They're not gifted at it, and they are gifted at going 225 miles an hour and potentially winning a race. So we look at a loan officer. Do you want to be a Formula One loan officer? And if you do, the only two things you should do is talk to partners and talk to borrowers all day long, and building a team around you that can allow you to take an hour of email and turn that into an hour of income. And when you do that and you put the system here, my first email system, Amy, I want you to check email at 9, 11, 1, 3, and 5. And by 9:15, 11:15, 1:15, 3:15, and 5:15, I only want to receive emails that I need to deal with that have to do with a relationship, a referral, or a sale. Okay. I'll check email at 5:30, and your job is to make sure there's nothing in my inbox. And the only thing in my email is my profit box. And those are emails that I have to deal with and follow up on. And I'll check those for 10 minutes every hour or two if I have a 9, 11, 1, 3, and 5. That's a system. And we look at this and we look at, how much would it cost? How much do you make per loan? How many hours are you spending in email or anything that isn't producing revenue? How do you redefine what you think is revenue producing? And how do you pull things like email out of that? Because that's not. You have a filter that gives you the emails that might. Now you're not replying to all. Now you're not sending emails. Now you're not creating more of a problem, because the more you send, the more of a problem you have. And you're isolating this as a delegatable activity. Would you pay somebody $100 an hour to manage email for you to make $10,000 an hour by doing one more loan? And the answer is obviously yes. And so we have this addiction to this thing. And the greatest joy you can ever have is know that this thing doesn't matter anymore, except for the phone calls you make to people and the phone calls you receive back from people, and especially if they're high value relationships. And that's where your world should be. And I'll say this to your entire audience, 95% of loan officers in America are making about half the amount of money they could be making if they change their thinking about what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's straightforward. I had a guy yesterday. Dino, this is going to blow your mind. So I had a guy yesterday report in. We had a coaching conversation with a group of loan officers 2 weeks ago. And I said, what I want you to do over the next 2 weeks before anything takes over in the day is I want you to call 5 partners and 5 borrowers. Okay. And by the time we get back together, which was yesterday, I want you to have reached at least 20 partners in 2 weeks and reached at least 20 borrowers in 2 weeks. And then I'm going to ask you a question when we get back on tomorrow about what happened. Super simple exercise, right? It's a system. It's an outbound call system. So a guy, Tim, gets on, and so we have share yesterday. And in 2 weeks, He contacted 16 partners and 12 borrowers and registered $4.5 million in loans in 2 weeks that he would not have gotten had he not made those calls to those people.
Yeah.
And by the time we got done with the share, everybody was fairly embarrassed. You have 20-year veterans that know the only way to make it rain is to make a phone call.
Yeah.
And it's just it begs for this, like I said to this group, and I'll say it to your group, people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. And if you could really get your head around this, guys, your system, your rain-making system should be all around conversion. And I'm just gonna tell you right now the simple math. Think about this for a second. If I have 4 borrower conversations a day and 1 says yes, I can do 20 loans a month. If 90% fund, that's 18 fundings. If I work 10 months, that's 180 fundings. If I can get my conversion rate through role playing with our coaches and dialing that in, and I can get that conversion by still 4 borrowers, so I'm not increasing my time, but now the conversion goes to 50%. I am now at 360 units a year funded. And if I do this again and I can get my conversion rate to 75%, still talking to 4 borrowers a day, I now have 540 fundings a year. If you did the math right now on 540 fundings a year at 5 grand each, that's $2.5 million plus in income. If you don't have a system around increasing your conversion rate because you are practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing, you're leaving not only millions of dollars in your career on the table, but you're going to take an extra decade or 2 to make the same amount of money you could make in 10 years by getting after it. And the sooner you understand what Dina just said, the sooner you understand I need an origination system where I am not going to let phone calls not be done in the most accurate, purposeful, and intentional way. And I am going to get so good at my brand reputation that about 90% of conversion happens before I even speak to the person. And that's called endorsement value. And endorsement value is every one of your agents telling every single buyer, every builder, talking every single buyer, you must speak with Dino. He's the only mortgage professional I trust. He's been in the business a long time. He helps me help you get the best home for the best price. And I bank on him on every deal. So can you call Dino today? Or I can text Dino your number and I'll have him call you. You have to be so dialed in this way that you're not thinking about getting loans. I get a chance to transform another soul. I get a chance to transform another life. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're the ultimate handholder for somebody who's scared to death to buy their first home. And you're the ultimate handholder to guide somebody through how long are they going to live in a house or houses. You're the perfect person to do that.
Yeah.
So I just and then what's your what's your system for referrals? So Dino, I showed these guys a slide yesterday that between the time I have a conversation with a borrower and the loan funds and records, my team and I would have a minimum of 8 strategic points in the manufacturing of a loan where we could ask for referrals. That system is the system that generates the revenue back to your business partners. And if you don't have that, then you gotta have it. Otherwise, you're one and done and you've done another transaction. The borrower is an epicenter for more borrowers, which is why you've got to crush the consultation. You have got to crush the experience that they have doing business with you and your team. And man, when you have 10 people that you fund in a month and you get 10 referrals from those 10, and you do this for the next 10 years, you'll have $20 million in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's coach a little bit in this scenario. Somebody listening and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But doesn't know how to execute on telling their realtors or their borrowers to tell everybody else about them. I don't know if it's insecurity, right? I mean, but one has to get over the feeling of asking people to tell their friends that you're great, right? I mean that, but in reality, that's what you're asking them to do. And I I need you to coach on it, but I'll start with be great, and then you don't have to feel weird about it. I mean, it's pretty simple. But coach everybody on how to go about asking for that. What does it take to do that
Yeah. I think
successfully?
one of the influence modalities we talk about in the academy, is the embedded command. We also talk about power phrases, and we also talk about pattern interrupts. So watch how this works. So when I have the borrower at a point where they're ready to go, okay, and everything's good, and we've got all the documentation, and we're ready to go. Um, I'm going to say to the borrower, this is an embedded command. I'm going to say, now that we're at this stage, I just want to let you know that we work 100% on referrals from our clients like you. We could spend a bunch of money generating leads. We could spend a bunch of money trying to make it rain. But because we spend 90% of our time making sure at the end of this, you give us a 5-star rating, we cannot afford to take our eyes off the prize and have anything go wrong with your loan. So if at the end of this transaction, you give us 5 stars, we would also like you at that moment in time to be in a position to refer us to 2 to 3 or 4 of your colleagues or friends. Is that a deal? And now that I've set the hook and I've set the stage, we're going to bust our ass to get 5 stars. And you're not gonna get it on every single loan, but you know our good friend Charla, and Charla is getting 5 stars on 99.2% of her funded loans. 5 stars. And when you're and basically, you know what this is gonna do? It's gonna take you to a whole new level, because now when anybody calls the borrower from the time you say that to the time they get the keys, the obvious question is gonna be, "How are we doing on our 5-star pursuit for you?" And if you do that every single time there's maybe a chance to do an outbound that, the appraisal's in, or do something that, the loan's submitted, or do whatever they might be, and all of a sudden they've given you 5 stars at day 7, they've given you 5 stars at day 14, they've given you 5 stars at day 21, you're there. And here's what's so interesting about this, Dino. The world is so big that when you do the intentional referral by design culture on your team, you're going to have these grand slam opportunities. One of my favorite stories is I did a loan for a pilot. I love doing loans for pilots. They're all qualified. Did that for, kind of him and his wife Janet, and at the end, kind of laid it out again. And I said to Tom, I said, you no doubt know other pilots, right? And he goes, yes. And I go, because you've given us a perfect 10, 5 stars wasn't around yet. Because you've given us a perfect 10, between now and next week, could you refer us to 1 or 2 or 3 of those pilots? And he goes, sure. I go, could you talk about it in the cockpit anytime you're flying? You're a captain, you got first officers. Could you talk about, buying a home? And they go, we have those conversations all the time. And I go, great. So he ends up referring me to a couple pilots, and one of those 2 pilots, 3 years later, becomes the director for the California Airline Pilots Association, and we did 700 loans in 10 years for pilots. Now listen to this. I am doing a podcast tomorrow with one of our instructors in Australia. And you know the circle of cash flow, you know how valuable it is. I landed on June 11th in Sydney, Australia this year. I had 32 business appointments with decision makers for fuel. And the minute I landed, those appointments were set, but I had never met one person I'm going to meet with. I fly all the way halfway around the world to spend a month in Australia having meetings with people and a little bit of vacation time. Didn't know anybody, but I knew one person who set up all the meetings. And so, those meetings went great and we generated, I don't know, it could be $10 million in revenue. It could be. I mean, these like the number one bank, the number one manufacturing plant, the number one car dealership, the highest end car dealership, Mattel Toys, Qantas Airlines. I mean, so Carrie is the guy that set those up. Carrie's an instructor. Carrie told me last week, this is amazing. He goes, do you know how close the circle of cash flow is to us at any given time? And I said, I do, but tell me your story. And he goes, I've been going up and down the elevator in my high rise that I live in for a year. And I've probably seen this guy 20 times. And I go, okay. And he goes, I finally got clear that when you said one thing changes anything, that until I engage with this guy, I'm not going to know who he is or whatever. But I mean, we're on the elevator all the time together. Ends up, the guy is a gazillionaire. His horse just won the Melbourne Stakes, which is one of the top horse races in the world. And they start talking, and the way he made his money, he's in the top 10 poker players in the world. And Carrie meets one of the top 10 poker players in the world. So what's a top 10 poker player do? Invites you to the next poker game in his multi-million-dollar suite that's higher than yours, right? Carrie goes up there. They have this conversation. They start building this friendship. He just made a $50 million offer on a 3-level condominium in Melbourne, and Carrie's commission is $1 million.
Wow.
That guy in the elevator.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Now, you ready for this? So there's this developer in Australia. His name is Tim Gurner. He's a 43-year-old billionaire. He finds this property called the Jam Factory, which was originally founded in the 1800s to make jelly and jam. He bought the entire parcel. He's putting a St. Regis hotel, 2 high-rise condominium units. The one is where the guy's making the $50 million offer. Carrie calls me and he says, you should buy a place. So now I'm in Carrie's circle of cash flow. So I'm going to be reviewing a contract this afternoon to buy a multi-million-dollar condo in Melbourne, Australia, because I love Australia. It's the second country I would live in if I have to live anywhere else. And we do business there. And Carrie's going, now I got the circle of cash flow. Todd, you're in my circle of cash flow. And I go, I'm not paying you a commission. I'll buy you dinner, but I'm not paying you a commission. He goes, don't worry about it. But it's just like, and Dino, what I would say to everybody is you have no idea who you're sitting next to if you don't ask.
Yep. I'll add to that one thing too. I would consider it a total failure if somebody in my circle didn't know what I did for a living. Because I hear this from a lot of loan guys where somebody said to them, oh, I didn't know you do loans. It's like, talk about a punch in the gut or the face, right? I mean, you can never, ever be in a situation where somebody tells you, I didn't know that you did loans. And that's just a piss poor job on your end. So,
Well, 100%. And the other thing that I think is also very important to that statement that you just made is at Sales Mastery during COVID, Clay Hebert spoke, and Clay has perfected what he calls the perfect intro. And when you really understand the perfect intro, it is about when somebody asks you what you do for a living, your answer has to create another question. Just let this sink in for a second. So when somebody would ask me what I do for a living, I would say, and so this is me as a speaker, I would say, I help people fall in love with their life and achieve prosperity in the process. Boom. What is the next logical thing that somebody is going to ask?
Yeah. How do you
How do
do
you
that?
do that? How do you do that? Well, I'm glad I asked. So, next time somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? I help people build wealth through real estate acquisition and achieve prosperity and happiness as a result. Well, how do you do that? I'm glad you asked. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So you have got to be proud of what you do, and you don't have to run around town telling everybody, ask me what I do for a living. It's just going to come up in conversation, and your closest circle of influence should be the ones that already know. And you got to make it very, very clear, very, very clear, because the more people know what you do and how you do it and how it is different than any other lender out there, the more referrals you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I would say back to your original question too. You ready, Dino? This is going to be a mic drop. When we ask to help the people that are afraid to ask for referrals or not comfortable asking for referrals, they're not afraid of not getting them, and they're not uncomfortable not asking for them. They're already doing it the wrong way, which actually is the gateway to the right way. So, what's the downside? What's the downside of asking a borrower in a well thought out way for referrals?
Yeah.
There is no downside. What is the downside of not asking a borrower for a lot of referrals? Well, 700 loans not gotten from a pilot who's now in charge of the entire association.
Yeah.
That's what's at risk.
Yep. Yep. I I joke around sometimes because the new generation never had to learn how to go out and meet a girl at a bar or random, so they never learned how to hunt, and they don't have this particular skill that that I think was a breeding ground for salespeople because, sure, a little bit of a no, it happens, right? You're gonna get a no, you're gonna get rejected, but do you get back up? Do you keep seeking that yes, or do you just give up and go home? And I think, that's where I don't know how to express what I'm thinking, but man, people need to get past that no and the fear of the no because the yes is so much sweeter. It is so much better. And you gotta always be able to get over the hump, able to get over that fear. And I don't know, let's speak to that. Tell people how to get over that fear. Right now, we're getting into more of a philosophical piece of coaching, but really, that fear is what prevent. I mean, there's skill, there's the level that they got to learn and master, but then there's that psychological side of it. And as a
Yeah.
coach, you got to deal with people's skill levels, but I think the psychological might be even more so.
Well, they're so symbiotically related that you have to deal with both. And so when you think about fear or you think about something that is stopping you, you're actually giving your power away to an event that has not yet occurred. That is not intelligent. You're basically saying, if I make this call, because I usually get rejected, I'm probably going to get rejected. That's not the way you set up a call. You set up a call with a power statement. I'm unstoppable. This person is going to be lucky to meet me. I cannot wait to have an enthusiastic conversation about how I can serve this person well. That's the mindset shift, right? And uh, Carrie, again, one of our instructors says, I've got this negative voice over here and I got this positive voice over here. And I this voice comes up all the time, and I want to hear the good voice. So then you take fear, which is placing on an event that hasn't happened a bad outcome, right? False evidence appearing real. And then you take fear and you say, okay, I have a choice. I make a call or I don't make a call. And I know if I have a series of decisions where I decide not to make the call, I'm going to feel less empowered. I'm going to feel less confident, and it's just going to get worse. The longer I hide from what I'm afraid of, the more I'm going to be afraid of it. And so then you go to fear and you go, okay, so what have you just attacked? What if fear stood for face everything and rise, right? Just attack, just do it. You're already succeeding at not doing it. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
Okay, now we have to get into the piece of knowing how to prevent the no. So now fear stands for feeling excited and ready. Now I have no fear. Why? I've role played this for 100 hours. I am a master at this. I can call anybody right now, and 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get a yes. Who's next? And that's feeling excited and ready. What have I done? Well, I've mastered my script. I've mastered it. And why would somebody say no if somebody they know, love, and trust is going to refer them to me? And so now no doesn't even come into my frame of reference. Hey, Debbie, this is Todd. I work for ABC Financial. A mutual friend, Ron Songrath, recommended that we have a chat. He said, you're the kind of agent that would really benefit from some of the things I do in the marketplace. In fact, if you have 60 seconds, I'll share with you one of the things Ron wanted me to talk to you about. Is this a good time? Yeah, good. Ron wanted me to introduce you to the Consumer Referral Program. It's a program where I bring you buyers and sellers on a regular basis for you to sell real estate to, for, or both. We give this only to realtors to whom we have been referred. And Ron thought you would enjoy that kind of program. How's it sound? Well, it sounds great. Awesome. When can we get together so I can show you how the program works? Boom. That's it. It's if there is no fear, you finally get to a point where you're so confident that you're going to become ultra choosy on who you do business with.
And it's the power of leverage, right? You're leveraging somebody else.
It's
I
endorsement value.
Yeah.
The most important thing that everybody here right now is that something that I stumbled across at the age of 24, I am using in my 6th decade of life to still build businesses. Who do I know? Who knows who I need to know? That's it. I ask that question every single day, multiple times a day. Who do I know? Who do I know? Who do I know that knows who I need to know? Who do I know? Who do I know? Who do I know? And you already know almost everybody you need to know. And then as you get to meet new people, you have new people you already know that can find and help you with people you need to know. And, it's that kind of deal. How did Fuel get Mattel? There's a guy I know in Vegas who we didn't accidentally do anything. He didn't know me, gets on the plane, has the seat next to me. I'm on a phone call. He's sitting next to me. I hang up the phone call and he looks at me and he goes, I don't want to be rude, but your voice sounds like you might be Todd Duncan. And I go, well, really? And he goes, yeah, I listened to your podcast this morning. And I said, how are we sitting together? We've never met. I'm Todd. He goes, I'm Paul. We end up talking for 3.5 hours on the way to Atlanta. And ends up that I am wearing, of all things, I'm wearing a stocking stuffer, a joke gag gift that my father-in-law got me. And it is a pink t-shirt that says Barbie. He's looking at my t-shirt. It says Barbie. We get off the plane. He goes, can I take a picture with you? And I go, yeah, why? And he goes, because my best friend is the CEO of Mattel. So we take the picture, send it to Steve Totsky, and now all of a sudden, like, how the heck does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
love it.
my point is that, Mattel only has 75,000 employees around the world, and I wore a shirt.
Yeah,
I don't know if I hadn't worn the shirt, if he would have ever have told me that his friend runs Mattel.
yeah,
I don't know how it happened, but here's what I know enough of. When he said my friend runs Mattel, it was game over because I have no fear in calling Steve because his best friend asked me to call.
yeah,
And that's where everybody has to get to. If a borrower says, you need to call my friend John and his wife Mary, I've told them that you are amazing. Call them. They're looking for a loan. Or if I have a realtor that says, in a staff meeting, I don't know who you guys are using for lender right now, but I've got this amazing relationship with this guy Dino at Ethos Lending. The most unbelievable lending experience I've ever heard my borrowers talk about. If you're not using Dino, you need to. Oh, Dino, call these 3 people. I told them about you. Okay, call them today. You'll have 3 new relationships. I guarantee it. Dino doesn't have any fear in making that call. We have fear when we're making cold calls.
yeah.
I've never done business based on cold calls. I don't
No,
even like leads because they have low conversion. I like
yeah,
less referrals, higher quality referrals that decide faster and spend more and stay longer. And you can do the business either way. You can do a transactional business, make a living, or you can do a relational business and make a fortune. Um, I have one relationship right now that is in its 33rd year of me staying in touch with this relationship. And this relationship, this year alone, will produce $1 million. 30, almost 33 years later. And all I do is call and tell John happy birthday every year or send him a video and stay in touch with him. But because we have this 3-decade experience together, he's always thinking training,
yeah.
training, 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 training.
What's interesting is with ethos, right? I asked myself, why would somebody want to come work here? And I had to sit and really think through this because why would they? There's plenty of other good mortgage companies. And let's face it, things are changing, right? So I had to come up with what my value proposition was. But but even more than that, I had to stay nimble enough to adapt because the environment is constantly changing.
Right.
And one of the things that I came up with was really, you know, a lot of everything I've learned through the coaching with you, and trying to piece it together with kind of this new spin, right? And one of the I would say our biggest thing of them all is the mom, and it's mortgages under management, which is really a circle of cash flow mixed with all the other systems that I've learned through you and the elite group that I was part of with you. And the big change though that I'm doing is very simply this: that if you're not transactional, you're relational, it is a fortune. And not only is it a fortune in how much you make, but it's a fortune in the longevity of how long you're going to be in this business and whether or not it's ever going to be sellable. And sellable doesn't formally exist in our industry versus a financial planner and an insurance agent, right? They have a sellable book of business. But why does a mortgage advisor not have a sellable book of business? I mean, multiple reasons. One, none of them ever know any of their stats. They might know how much they did, how many units and their dollar volume, but they don't know what their P&L looks like. They don't know where all their referrals came from. They don't know how much money they spent to get those referrals. I mean, they don't know any of that stuff, right? And how does somebody run a business without knowing these things? It's crazy to me. Even ones that are making $1 million or $2 million a year don't know their stats. Some do, and it's impressive when they actually do, but the true details. So we're taking all of that, we're adding this mum, which is really a book of business, and we're saying that if you do business the ethos way, which is the way you've always done business, the way I've always done business, right? If you do that, you will have a sellable book of business. And for the first time as a company, we're coming out and we're saying, in fact, we'll put our money where our mouth is and we'll even buy it from you. But the way we're going to structure it is this instead. You want to retire? You put your book up for sale if you've met all of the qualifications. Any of the advisors at Ethos can bid for it. As a company, we're going to step in with all of the numbers and financing to help facilitate a buyout of this person's book of business. Not just if they want to retire. Un, un, Unfortunate death, get hit by a bus. Well, all that work you've done, what about your family? It's still a sellable book, but it's only sellable if you've gotten away from doing all your business on your cell phone and you've gotten away from doing everything yourself, right? So going like bringing it all back around now, these systems that we talked about in the beginning are what create a business. If you're doing everything yourself and you're doing it all on your cell phone, you got no business. That's why you'll have guys go to your seminars and knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb is happening and they didn't even hear it because they're trying to secretly reply to some borrower or underwriter about something. So we're creating these systems, dude, and we're creating um, a buyout plan for all of them. And one of the things I'm really excited about is because I'm in the middle of I've created it, but I'm in the middle of actually trying to push it out now. And we've done a weighted score of what your book is, and we've modeled it after the credit score evaluation. Like an 850 is a perfect score, right? If you're a borrower, well, an 850 is now a perfect score if you're a mortgage advisor. And Fannie Mae guidelines will tell you where you fall within it, and then your book of business elevates every time you have another a 740 credit score or a 780 or an 800. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm bringing this up because um, somewhere in there I'm trying to give you credit simply because these are all the things that I learned through being part of the elite group and through all the coaching. And I'm saying this because, there's a lot of people that are stuck
Yeah.
and sometimes they're already successful, but they're still stuck, whether it's in their personal life or whether it's that next level of their business. And I believe coaching and thirst for knowledge is so important for everybody. And whether you're down right now or you're high as a kite on how great business is, whatever it is, I believe that you should always be coaching no matter what the situation is. And when it comes to coaching, let's face it, you're one of the godfathers in the whole industry here of coaching. So I'm bringing this all back to let you know that you've changed my life. I'm hoping now through this, right? And the generational piece that it pushes on, and I can help push it on to other people. It's really important to me.
Um, and it should be, the mark of a great leader is transformation of the people he or she leads. And why Ethos is such an important brand name and why your character stands behind it in such an amazing way is I know that's your heart. And when I think about this idea of um, the valuation of a business, and I think about your comment about mortgage not really being set up that way to do what we know we want to do, you end up working to retire at some point because you need more money instead of working to build an asset that somebody else would pay you good money to own. I have a friend in Australia who earns $70,000 a month having sold his $900 million book. And what I want you guys to understand is that there are buyers and sellers of every type of business. I have a friend that, is a 42-year-old periodontist, and he bought the dental practice from a gentleman that's 20 years older than him that was ready to retire. And, the price of that business came with the patience and came with the brand equity and came with the frequency of revisits by those patients and the less turnover they had and so on and so forth. The valuation of a mortgage book has to do with how many repeat pieces of business do you get per person and how many referrals do you get per person. You have a subscriber base. And the reason why most loan officers are not enjoying the kind of wealth that they could enjoy is they don't see the business as a wealth machine. They see it as a job. And there's nothing worse than being a lender and having a job being a lender. You're going to use lending as the vehicle to generate revenue for you and your family, but you're a business owner, just like my dentist friend is a business owner, just like my father was a business owner of his medical practice. Just like my uncle Jim was the owner of Foster Freeze. You have businesses. I mean, I'll make no mistake about it. I think Fuel's gonna have an equity event in the next 24 months. Great. If it does, great. If it doesn't, great. I'm still doing something that I know is building value for a worldwide audience. And therefore, then, if the metrics are right, the re-sign rates, the longevity rates, the sign-in rates, the lessons complete rate, if all those are tracking up, then I get more value for the business. But the other thing I want to tell you is I played it real simple. In year 12, I sold my business to my ops manager and to my production partner. And they knew that they could buy that business. I would do the self-funded buyout. I would take a percentage of my commission, give them. They keep their stuff, they keep their bonuses, they keep all that. But I think I went from, "I'm gonna keep 75, you can have 25," and by the time we were done, I got 25 and they got 75, and they took the practice and ran with it, and then they changed the name, and they could change the name because it wasn't Todd Duncan Mortgage anymore, right? It was owned by these 2 guys, and they rebranded it, and, they made a fortune. So you can do all kinds of creative things, but the bottom line is if you stopped prospecting tomorrow and your business dried up next week, you have nothing to sell. Your phone should be ringing without you doing marketing. That's what the circle of cash flow does.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So, got two last questions for you, and then I gotta call it here because I've kept you on a little longer than I was supposed to.
Oh, I'm
But
good. I'm good.
all right, two questions, and I know this is probably a big one, a hard one for you because you got so many. But give me your favorite book or a couple.
My favorite book because it gave me the spirit of positivity, was Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, written by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. And I read that book when I was 16. I've read it 31 times. It is tattered. It's on my bookshelf in my Laguna Beach house. And that book changed everything about seeing the world as positive and understanding that positivity is a choice. And the quote that's in that book that I'll never forget is this quote: "There's very little difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, but the little difference makes the big difference. The little difference is attitude, and the big difference is whether it's positive or not." And I have found that my life is supremely better when I see the glass as half full than half empty. And everything that is a moment of adversity tells me that I haven't either figured out how to do it right yet, or my dreams are so big I'm bound to have headwinds. And that's kind of how I see that. So that book was great. I read a book recently called Two Chairs by Bob Bodine. And Two Chairs to me was a real gift because it had to do with me sitting in one chair and God sitting in the other chair and having a daily conversation with him. And it was one of the most powerful reads I've had in a lot of years. And the author of that book is Bob Bodine. Bob Bodine also wrote a great book called The Power of Who. And The Power of Who says you already know everybody you need to know, which kind of truncates up with the circle of cash flow. So those are 2 books that that I really, really love that have history making tectonic shifts in my thinking and my soul. Um, and the third book I look at every day is the Bible. I don't look at it, I actually open it.
Hopefully, it's the most the tethered one on the bookshelf.
Well, and when I say look at it, because I have my Bible on my phone and,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I do that, but it's so cool because, yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
All right. This is the last question. It's one of my most favorite ones. So you're still Todd Duncan, but nobody knows who Todd Duncan is. I'm you have all the knowledge that you have, but I'm picking you up and I'm taking you away and I'm dropping you off somewhere in the middle of the United States where you don't know anybody. You have all the knowledge. You have just enough money to do a few things and to survive, but not enough to be extravagant, Todd Duncan style extravagant, or even to go out and like really like buy the business type of thing, right? What does Todd Duncan do to make $1 million as fast as possible?
So in the context of mortgage,
Mortgage.
okay. So my business, I'm so glad you asked this question. My business was in Anaheim, California. 100% of the business I was doing was in Anaheim, California. FHA, VA, um, just Anaheim, right? And I wanted to get my average loan amounts up. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to change the profile of my clientele. I had never done business in Newport Beach, California. And so using everything we've talked about in this beautiful interchange, I just kept my eyes open for people that were close to Newport Beach. And I happened to be referred to a doctor in Newport Beach by a doctor in Anaheim. And so when I made the phone call to the doctor in Newport Beach, I got an appointment with the doctor in Newport Beach, but it was a brand new market. I didn't know anybody else but that doctor, and it was 35 minutes away by car to get to that market. And so I did in Newport for a year what I had done in Anaheim for about 7 years. And within, I would say the first 12 months, I had 12 doctor clients. And I would say that within the next through 2 years or so, I had about 50 doctor clients. And then I think the last 2 years of doing loans, I had over 100 doctors that I was doing financing for and investments for. And so what I and then I will tell you something else. A guy named, Ian, is it Ian Thomas, I think. He was trained by me at Wells Fargo. He worked in a little town that had 14,000 people in it called Hutchinson, Minnesota. He was known to everybody, right? He was like the lender. And he said, "I can't do any more business." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "'Cause I'm getting most of the business. I got like a 70% market share in Hutchinson, Minnesota." And so I said, "Okay, so show me a map and tell me the 5 cities that are within a half an hour of you." So he wrote down a piece of paper, Hutchinson, and then wrote these 5 cities out. And I said, "Which one is the biggest market if you were to crack that market?" And he picked the top 3 markets in order. 2 years later, had penetrated those 3 new markets, still had Hutchinson, and in no town having over 18,000 people in population, he funded 872 loans.
Jeez.
And it's just like it's just proximity. So you can have an A market, you can have a B market, you can have a C market. Um, there are no boundaries, particularly if you're, with a company that's licensed in every state. You and I have a mutual friend, Rick Ward, and you know how Rick is getting business now outside of Colorado. He got licensed in every single state,
Yeah.
and he's a veteran. And so he just said, there are no limits. There are no limits. I can go to any market. And because I'm serving veterans, it's an easy sale. It's an easy pitch. I help. What do you do for a living? I help retired vets build successful businesses in their community. Loans are the byproduct.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit more. I'm going to push. I'm going to push on this one.
All right.
Makes a lot of sense. But I know I can hear him right now. He's saying, okay, but how do you get those doctors? You don't know anybody. How do you start the process from scratch, right? There's social media these days, there's old school, there's all these different ways of doing things, but what are you going to do exactly?
I think I answered it, but I'll try it again. Um,
Try harder.
no, I don't have to find somebody. I have to find the body that knows the somebody. That's what I have to do. So in any market that I'm gonna parachute into and I know nobody and I need to make enough money to do whatever I need to do, I'm gonna parachute into that market. I'm gonna figure out who's the first person I need to know that can introduce me to anybody I need to be introduced to. And so I'm gonna land and I'm gonna call every title company in this new market, and I'm gonna ask them in this market who their top title rep is. And then I'm gonna call that top title rep. I'm gonna tell them I moved from Newport Beach, California to Omaha, Nebraska. Don't ask me why, but I need to find 10 of the best real estate agents in town. I'm a very experienced lender. Can you help me out? And oh, by the way, because I nurture my clients and I do a lot of refis, if you can help me on this end, I'm going to give you all my title business that I can control on the back end. Boom, done.
Guess who I had dinner with last night? My title rep of 25 years. Yeah, guess who probably yeah, actually for sure my number one referral source of all times has ever been
Your
my
title rep.
title my title
Yeah.
rep.
Yep. Yep. But
And
it's
and
it's
not
like,
and not because he's referred me to people that need loans, he has a few, but it's because he's referred me to everybody else that needs somebody that can do loans, right?
right,
But realtors, so many
right,
realtors, it's ridiculous.
right. I think about the story of Christy Solar, um, who, uh, gosh, one of the top producers of all time. She started off her business in a brand new market. She went from doing cattle loans to doing real estate loans, and she stood out in front of Dollar Store, Dollar Tree, and handed business cards out to every single person that walked out of Dollar Tree and said, "If you ever need a home loan, I just want you to know I'm one of the best, and I can help you navigate the process like no other lender." And she ends up doing, I don't know, $1 billion in home loans. It's just like,
Wow.
all right,
Well, buddy,
man.
listen, I want to thank you so much. That was amazing. I love you so much. You have no idea. I appreciate you.
Mm.
And I think everybody here today appreciated all your knowledge bombs as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being a dear friend, number one. Thank you for trusting me and trusting the group that we put together. And it's been fun to watch you flourish and to think big. And for me, the great joy and the great honor is the indelible difference I get to make. And you're one of the guys that difference just keeps on blessing others. So it's a joy to be in your orbit, and more importantly, a joy to be your friend. So
Thank you. Hey guys, listen, we're here to empower, equip, and educate the way lending should be done. And we're here to help you. If you guys enjoyed the show, if you guys enjoyed Todd, if you enjoy all of the different guests that I've had, please like, comment, but share. Don't just keep it to yourself, share it with your friends and let us know. I love hearing that we're making a difference. So thank you again so much. Love you guys, and we'll see you next time.